"It would be useless," said the snake, "for if you found him ready on the bank, he would not take you in. He can carry anyone to this side, none to yonder." "Here is a pretty kettle of fish," cried the lights. "Are there no other means of getting through the water?" "There are other means, but not at this moment. I myself could take you over, gentlemen, but not till noon." "Well, that is an hour we do not like to travel in." "Then you may go across in the evening, on the great giant's shadow." "How is that?" "The great giant lives not far from this. With his body he has no power. His hands cannot lift a straw. His shoulders could not bear a bundle of twigs. But with his shadow he has power over much, nay all. At sunrise and sunset, therefore, he is strongest. So at evening you merely put yourself on the back of his shadow. The giant walks softly to the bank, and the shadow carries you across the water. But if you please, about the hour of noon, to be in waiting at the corner of the wood, where the bushes overhang the bank, I myself will take you over and present you to the fair lily. On the other hand, if you dislike the noontide, you have just to go at nightfall to that bend of the rocks and pay a visit to the giant. He will certainly receive you like a gentleman." With a slight bow, the flames went off, and the snake, at bottom, was not discontented to get rid of them. Partly that she might enjoy the brightness of her own light, partly to satisfy a curiosity with which for a long time she had been agitated in a singular way. In the chasm, where she often crawled hither and thither, she had made a strange discovery. For although in creeping up and down this abyss she had never had a ray of light, she could well enough discriminate the objects in it by her sense of touch. Generally, she met nothing but irregular productions of nature. At one time, she would wind beneath the teeth of large crystals. At another, she would feel the barbs and hairs of native silver, and now and then carry out with her to the light some straggling jewels. But to her no small wonder, in a rock which was closed on every side, she had come on certain objects which betrayed the shaping hand of man. Smooth walls on which she could not climb, sharp, regular corners, well-formed pillars, and what seemed strangest of all, human figures which she had entwined more than once, and which appeared to her to be of brass, or of the finest polished marble. All these experiences she now wished to combine by the sense of sight, thereby to confirm what, as yet, she only guessed. She believed she could illuminate the whole of that subterranean vault by her own light, and hoped to get acquainted with these curious things at once. She hastened back and soon found, by the usual way, the cleft by which she used to penetrate the sanctuary. On reaching the place, she gazed around with eager curiosity, and though her shining could not enlighten every object in the rotunda, yet those nearest her were plain enough. With astonishment and reverence, she looked up into a glancing niche where the image of an august king stood formed in pure gold. In size, the figure was beyond the stature of men, but by its shape, it seemed the likeness of a little rather than a tall person. His handsome body was encircled with an unadorned mantle, and a garland of oak bound his hair together. No sooner had the snake beheld this reverend figure than the king began to speak and asked, "Whence comest thou?" "From the chasms where the gold dwells," said the snake. "What is grander than gold?" inquired the king. "Light," replied the snake. "What is more refreshing than light?" said he. "Speech," answered she. During this conversation she had squinted to a side, and in the nearest niche perceived another glorious image. It was a silver king in a sitting posture. His shape was long and rather languid. He was covered with a decorated robe. Crown, girdle, and sceptre were adorned with precious stones. The cheerfulness of pride was in his countenance. He seemed about to speak, when a vein, which ran dimly coloured over the marble wall on a sudden became bright and diffused a cheerful light throughout the whole temple. By this brilliancy, the snake perceived a third king, made of brass, and sitting mighty in shape, leaning on his club, adorned with a laurel garland, and more like a rock than a man. She was looking for the fourth, which was standing at the greatest distance from her. But the wall opened while the glittering veins started and split, as lightning does, and disappeared. A man of middle stature entering through the cleft attracted the attention of the snake. He was dressed like a peasant and carried in his hand a little lamp, on whose still flame you liked to look, and which, in a strange manner, without casting any shadow, enlightened the whole dome. "Why comest thou, since we have light?" said the Golden King. "You know that I may not enlighten what is dark." "Will my kingdom end?" said the Silver King. "Late or never," said the old man. With a stronger voice, the Brazen King began to ask, "When shall I arise?" "Soon," replied the man. "With whom shall I combine?" said the king. "With thy elder brothers," said the man. "What will the youngest do?" inquired the king. "He will sit down," replied the man. "I am not tired," cried the fourth king, with a rough, faltering voice. While this speech was going on, the snake had glided softly round the temple, viewing everything. She was now looking at the fourth king close by him. He stood leaning on a pillar. His considerable form was heavy rather than beautiful, but what metal it was made of could not be determined. Closely inspected, it seemed a mixture of these three metals, which its brothers had been formed of. But in the founding, these materials did not seem to have combined fully together. Gold and silver veins ran irregularly through a brazen mass and gave the figure an unpleasant aspect. Meanwhile, the Gold King was asking of the man, "How many secrets knowest thou?" "3," replied the man. "Which is the most important?" said the Silver King. "The open one," replied the other. "Wilt thou open it to us also?" said the Brass King. "When I know the fourth," replied the man. "What care I?" grumbled the Composite King in an undertone. "I know the fourth," said the snake, approached the old man and hissed somewhat in his ear. "The time is at hand," cried the old man with a strong voice. The temple re-echoed, the metal statues sounded, and that instant the old man sank away to the westward and the snake to the eastward, and both of them passed through the clefts of the rock with the greatest speed. All the passages through which the old man travelled filled themselves immediately behind him with gold, for his lamp had the strange property of changing stone into gold, wood into silver, dead animals into precious stones, and of annihilating all metals. But to display this power, it must shine alone. If another light were beside it, the lamp only cast from it a pure, clear brightness, and all living things were refreshed by it.